Thank you, everyone. This is beautiful. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I am so impressed with the honorees and so impressed with this room. So to stand on this stage means so much to me. And if you'll indulge me, I'll tell you a little bit about how cross-cultural understanding and impact has shaped my life in 4 very brief acts. So the first is in high school. So I am a native of New York City. I spent most of my childhood growing up in the Bronx, and my first real foray cross-culturally was actually simply taking the subway down from the Bronx into Manhattan. Literally going to high school. I went to Stuyvesant High School, and so I would, in 1 hour, be in the north end of the city and then all the way down to the southern tip of Manhattan. And in that, there was a massive cultural shift in the people who were around me. Specifically, taking the subway from 125th Street in Harlem down to 86th Street and just looking at the ways that the demographics of this very city shifted enormously. That really stayed with me. The fact that we were from the same country and from the same city, but really class shifts, racial shifts, socioeconomic status shifts were really, really strong. And I never quite understood that segregation in some ways. I did, however, love high school. I got the opportunity to go abroad for the first time, and actually my mom helped raise the money to send me over to Spain my junior year of high school. And that meant so much to me. My best friend, who's here tonight, joined me. That was a little while ago. And I got an opportunity to see a different part of the world, and since then, basically got bitten with a travel bug that has stayed with me. So the second act I want to talk about is college and then going into grad school. So I knew that I was really interested in studying people and how people's cultures impacted their daily lives. And I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to apply this. And I remember my senior year, I ended up doing a research study looking at romantic relationships across different ethnicities. And in that study, I learned a lot about how culture impacts even how we behave in our most personal relationships. At the same time, I was studying business because, as every good psychology major does, I needed a little something to fall back on. And I fell in love with a class called Business Across Cultures. And so that took me to graduate school in the UK, where I studied cross-cultural psychology. Which is really basically how international, multinational businesses are able to understand different employees and different management structures across the world. And when I was in the UK, I'm going to talk about these values of respect and empathy. I was an administrator in our International Student Society, and for me as an American, being part of that international student population was humbling and created an empathy for so many different cultures and my fellow students. The third act that I'm going to talk about is actually when I got my first dream job working at Catalyst, which really focuses on making sure that workplaces are inclusive and create belonging for people all around the world and of all different backgrounds. And I actually am really fortunate to have several Catalyst colleagues sitting with me tonight. And Catalyst gave me this really wonderful opportunity. So I was in my mid-20s, and Catalyst basically sent me as the first kind of exchange international expat worker to work out of Zurich, Switzerland. And that gave me a huge sense of respect. So I'll tell you, when I was leaving the Bronx and I was packing and I told people in the neighborhood where I was going, and I was like, Switzerland. And they were like, oh, Sweden? No, Switzerland, right? And so I found myself about 40 minutes outside of central Zurich, and I really challenged myself. Unfortunately, subjected my neighbors to incredibly painful German for a couple of years, but that was really out of a respect for the culture and not approaching people in my language or a language that I thought we could commonly speak, but really trying to learn the local language. And so the fourth act that I'll talk about is my second dream job, and the setting is California. Again, another cross-cultural experience in many ways. I am a true East Coast girl at heart, don't tell anyone. And what I really want to talk about is this opportunity to lead inclusion and diversity at Pinterest. As Adam talked about, it's really, really important for me not only to make sure that there's an impact within the company and within the tech industry, where as few as about 3% of the industry come from Latino and African American backgrounds, right? So we have a lot of work to do. But additionally, it takes a lot of moral courage to have this type of role, to lead inclusion and diversity, to talk about conversations that are really painful for some people, to talk about concepts like race and difference when it's so common for people to kind of push those topics underground. But on really tough days, I get to geek out and sit with people who really like to discuss our differences and how they actually bring us closer together. So once again, I want to thank you all for this wonderful award. I want to thank everyone for associating the word courage with me, which means a lot and has taken me a while to embody, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you.